Hello, everybody. Happy Taco Tuesday. What a day. What a day. I have to bring out my little friend that we brought who's bringing the Taco Tuesday action here. This is so much fun. So, fun fact today in the state of Texas, it's a random day off because there are elections happening. There's local elections and just lots of things happening today. So I have 3 kids upstairs. I said, they kept saying, "Can we play on our iPads?" I'm like, "No, it's not the weekend." They're like, "Can we play on the Switch?" And I'm like, "Yes, as long as it's, just go upstairs and don't scream. Please don't scream at each other for the next 30 to 45 minutes." So, there's no guarantees ever that that's going to happen. But I'm excited to chat with y'all today. Like I said, it's Taco Tuesday. I kind of like it. I had told Mel last week that I wanted to put like a little GIF like right here, down here in the corner. But I think I like her attitude better. She comes on real strong on a Taco Tuesday, and that just makes me so happy. Hello. So happy that you're here. Happy Tuesday. Yes, this is one of my favorite days of the week. It's actually, no, I take that back. I think it is my favorite day of the week. And I am just always excited because it's a day when we put out a brand new podcast episode. So if you're brand new around here and you're not a current listener, here is the Profit Podcast. This is my weekly show. We put out episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. And today we are talking on the podcast about taking creative risks with your content. And I don't understand why risks is so hard to say. I feel like I sound like a cat that's like hissing at somebody when I say risks. Like risks. Like, I don't know. It sounds really weird. So I always try to point out whenever I feel self-conscious about a word that I say, because I feel like it gives everybody else permission to say things funky too. And, we all have our own little quirks and our own little weird things that we do. So I'm like, I'll just go ahead and share that. That was a weird one. Asks is another weird one. ASKS. Asks. I feel like you have to emphasize the K whenever you're saying it. Otherwise, people are like, ooh, oh, what is she saying? What's actually going on? Hey, Stacia, so happy that you're here. Happy Tuesday to you as well. So happy that you're here. Look at this. Hit that like button, everybody. Yes, if you're watching on YouTube, I would love it if you would hit that like button because we're going to be having lots of fun today talking about creative risks. So let me go ahead and put this up here. So this is today's podcast episode. I have it pulled up if y'all want to see it. Oh, and if you weren't here last week, this is a really, really fun fact. My friend Melanie, who is a partner over at StreamYard, which is the software that I'm using right now, you can go to crystalprofit.com/StreamYard to check it out. I'm an affiliate. I'm a partner with them as well. But look how cool this is. So you see me here. I'm like on the side of the screen. Boom. I'm part of the screen. I'm on it. Or I could just show you my whole screen and take me away, but I like this look here because it looks really cool. So I can take it off. You can see, just go to crystalprofit.com/episode 303. I'm going to keep that scrolling there for anybody else that sees it. But let me make this a little bit bigger. So what we talked about on the podcast today was really the fact that a lot of podcasters, once they get going with their content, they get stagnant at some point. This happens to everybody. Like, there's nothing wrong with you if this happens. Actually, here, hang on. I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. We're going to do this because I think that that's better. I think, to go there. We're not really looking at anything too, particular right there. But if you are just getting started with a podcast, or maybe you're watching this because you're like, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still planning. I just want you to know you are normal if you get to a point in creating your content where you feel stuck and you're like, well, I was really fired up. I talked about all the things I wanted to talk about. Now what? So I want you to get comfortable from the very beginning, or if you're a seasoned podcaster, this especially goes for you. Once you start feeling that complacency of like, oh, I've got this, I'm in the groove, we're just going to keep talking about the same things. I'm not saying that all of a sudden you should hard left and like go in a totally different direction. But I do think that you need to keep your eyes open for creative opportunities for your content. Now, in this particular episode, it's really short. Like, I'll probably talk longer here today than I did in this episode, but there's very particular things that I share. Especially y'all, I share my love of Ted Lasso. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love Ted Lasso so much. I've listened to like all the writers, the creators, the actors, like on podcasts. Like, I'm just like full blown deep dive obsessed. I'm actually in the like rewatching the second season. I watched the first season, or sorry, I watched the first go round, first season, second season with my husband. Now I'm watching it by myself. I'm like rewatching all of it. I love it so much. But there's one particular episode. If you watch Ted Lasso, which is a show on Apple TV Plus, if you watch it, you watch Ted Lasso, you will know the exact episode I'm talking about. There's one episode, and I'm not going to give any spoilers in case anybody wants to watch it, but there's one where it just totally veers off this particular episode in a very different direction than the rest of their content. And so I bring that up because I think that it was a big shot, right? Like, it was a big, like, we don't know how this is going to go, but we're going to do it anyway. And I gave some other examples. You'll have to go listen to the podcast to see which ones I was talking about. It's all TV shows and, you know, streaming shows that I shared. But I think it's so interesting how once we get comfortable, we kind of stay there. We're like, oh, well, I just do solo episodes, or I only do interviews. I would never think to add in something different. And in this particular episode, I talk about ways to baby step into it. And I talk about how I'm pretty risk averse. I don't like taking big risks, but I do think that you should consider, if you're feeling stagnant, if you're feeling not excited about your content, to me, that's a red flag that you need to shake things up. You need to shake things up and you need to try something new. Otherwise, you're going to continue to feel that way. And this over time is what slowly leads to burnout. I think that people really believe that pod fade or podcast burnout, it's the same thing. They're synonymous. I think that they think it just happens to a podcaster one day. They just wake up and say, oh, I'm just done. I don't want to podcast anymore. But the truth is, what I have seen is people will stop podcasting because they're bored. They're bored with their content. It's not exciting to them. It doesn't get them the results they were really hoping for, or it's just like, it's a Groundhog Day effect. This is actually what happened to me with my very first podcast. It turned into this Groundhog Day effect of I was always doing interviews, and then the solo episodes I was trying weren't really working. And so I got into this mix of like, what am I even doing? What am I doing? It feels like even though I was interviewing different people and people had different stories, I kind of felt like I was just going through the motions after a while. And that didn't seem fair to the guests that I had on my show, to my audience, or to me. Like, let's just be really honest. It didn't feel right as a creator to just have this idea of like, this is it. Like, I'm not going to be excited about it anymore. So if you feel that way in your content and you're trying to like, how do I spice things up with your podcast? I really want you to go listen to today's episode. I think that it can help you a lot. It can help you tremendously if that is where you are with your content. So yeah, I'm currently trying to use this to podcast. Awesome. Yeah. So Stacia, I don't know if you've launched your show or not, but I think that if you look at it, and for anybody else that's listening, if you're just getting started, I really want you to think, how can I avoid getting stuck in a rut in the future? Because y'all, you have the upper hand here. Holy moly. Like, the podcast alone is the information that I wish I had whenever I started, you know, close to what we're 3+ years ago at this point. All the information that is on the Profit Podcast. Again, let me put it back up here. All the information that is on this show right here is exactly what I wish I knew and would have helped me avoid getting really close to burnout and getting bored with my content and thinking, am I doing enough? Am I going in the right direction? And are people bored hearing the same thing over and over again? And the truth is that if you are putting out the exact same content in the same way, yeah, your audience is going to be just exhausted from hearing the same message. But if you're like me and you keep thinking about, how can I take creative risks? How can I approach the exact same topic with a different way? Put a new spin on it, put a fresh idea, put a fresh take. Y'all, because today's episode is just about creating content. That's literally, if you were to look at like the high level hierarchy of where this episode lands in like the different buckets of the content that I create, it's just about creating content. But I just packaged it in a different way. I added fresh ideas. I added new stories that honestly like are new. It's not that they're new as in I've never told them to my audience. They're new because I had never thought about comparing a podcast to a TV show the way that I did in these episodes. And whenever I made that connection with the story, I actually had 2 or 3 other examples pop in my head. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I have to share this with my audience. So I'm hoping that in sharing these creative ideas with you, you will have the same experiences as you look at your content. Because I know there's a lot of you here that you're like, man, I can only tell this one story so many ways, or I can only approach this one topic by, X, Y, and Z. After that, I don't know where to go with it. I want you to always be looking at new ideas. And this is another reason, y'all, I'm going to make a confession, okay? I'm going to make a confession. And if you're on my email list and you joined in the last, let's say 12 months, because I think that it was probably around January, so maybe like the last 10 months. If you've been on my email list recently and you were part of like my whole welcome sequence of like, oh, hey, so happy to have you here. This is me. There's one particular email where I talk about how much TV I binge watched in 2020. And my TV consumption habits are still very high. And the reason is because I listen to podcasts or I watch shows whenever I'm doing stuff around the house. I will fold laundry. I will do the dishes. I love to cook. And so like I will always have something on kind of in the background. And I have learned to look at these different pieces of content that I'm consuming, right? I've learned to look at them as, how does this translate to podcasting? So I've basically told myself, you're fine if you're binging a lot of stuff because it's work related, right? You can just say, how do I apply this to podcasting? And then I give myself permission to do it, to watch it. I'm actually reading a really good book right now that I have the same idea. It's like, why do I love this? And this is what I want you to do as well. Like, just start paying attention to the websites you visit, the YouTube channels you love, the podcasts you listen to, the shows that you love to watch, like all of it. Start paying attention in your own life and say, why do I love this? Why is this so different? What makes me hit play on my phone and start listening to this podcast? Because it's not because necessarily someone told you to. Maybe someone's marketing was really good and reminded you that it was there, but you like it because it's the content. Otherwise, you're not going to watch it. You're not just going to blindly turn on things that you don't really enjoy. I mean, I know I don't do that. Even if it's a podcast host that I love and I listen to their show so much, y'all, I will turn on a podcast and I'll turn it off and say, I don't really care about that today. I don't really want to listen to that topic, or I don't really care that much about this particular guest. It's okay. That's fine to say that out loud because I know that's how people feel about my show. And I think that we all have to get comfortable with accepting that this is how people consume content because it's probably what you and I both do on a regular basis, right? We will turn something on, we turn it off when it's no longer interesting. And in order to make it to where your audience is turning your content off less, you got to be willing to take some of those creative risks. So I feel like I could just go on and on. I feel like soapbox moments like happen when I start talking about creating content and how to really just get comfortable with what you're putting out there and how to just keep it fresh and just keep it going. Hi, Monique. So happy that you're here. I'm glad that you enjoyed today's episode. Okay, so I'm going to do, Monique, if you're still here, I would love for you to tell me if you had one particular takeaway. I'm trying to get everybody else comfortable with asking this question because it's going to help you with your podcast messaging. I did a training recently for it was a one-off membership training that I did for the Christian Podcasters Association. So shout out Eric and his team over there, but we were talking about how to know if your message is working. And while I love Monique saying like it was so great, it was a great episode, I need to get in the habit of saying, awesome, I'm so glad you loved it. Is there one particular takeaway that you had from the episode? And I want you as podcast hosts to get comfortable asking those questions too, because this will help you with your marketing. If someone says, oh, it was great because it was short and sweet. Today's episode was a lot shorter than most of my other episodes. It was only, I think it was like 18 minutes. And so it was just a lot shorter than some of my 30, 45-minute episodes, or if it's an interview, an hour long. So I need to start asking my audience. It's a concept that I call ask, then listen. Basically, you ask your audience and then you shut up. You say, what was your takeaway? Like, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Can you give me some feedback? Was there one particular thing that you really enjoyed? So I want everybody to get into that habit. Everybody to get into that. Great information. Yeah, my creative gears are spinning. Oh, I love to hear that. I love to hear it when people start asking me questions about content. I wish that you could see inside my brain because I feel like still like there's fireworks and sparks and all kinds of things because this is just how my brain works. Content creation is not hard for me. And it's one of those superpowers that I feel like I've tapped into because I think a lot of people overthink content creation and they want to put it in a box, like slap a formula on it and say, this is the only way that, that I can create this or that I can do this. But at the end of the day, if you start looking at what you do as a consumer and start asking your friends, like I'll ask my husband, the other day he was showing me, y'all, he's new to TikTok and he does not put out videos. He's like one of those lurkers that likes to watch stuff. And it's so funny because he'll send me stuff. He like DMs me on TikTok and he's like, you got to watch this video. And then if it's something that I don't get, I'll ask him like, I don't get it. Like, why did you think it was funny? And then he'll explain it to me, like why he thought it was funny. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, like now I get it. Now, maybe it just like, poof, went over my head. But I like to ask, why did this work for you? Or why did it make you laugh? What is so funny about it? So just get comfortable in that habit of asking people. Kurt, so happy that you're here. I haven't seen you in a while. Happy Tuesday. Glad that you're here. Arian's in the house. Haven't seen you in a while either. So happy to see you. Oh my gosh, y'all, this is so fun. And then Tanya D, good morning. I'm having trouble receiving feedback. Okay, so and I'm actually going to recreate the training that I did. I don't actually have the recording because like I said, it was for a private session, but I'm going to be recreating that same concept because I feel like we need more of this information. Like, how do I know that stuff is working? Because I do polls and nobody does them. Like no one gives me feedback, just like Tanya says. It's like, no one tells me. Like I'm asking, but no one is telling me that I think we have to get comfortable asking in different ways. In this particular training, I talked about surveys. Surveys are usually like, oh, people have this like, I don't want to do a survey because we immediately, and maybe this is just my generation of like, seeing people like literally on the sidewalk with clipboards. I remember having this first experience. I was in the quad. I went to Texas State University, like eat 'em up cats. That was my college that I went to. And I will never forget walking through our quad. We had this huge staircase that you have to walk down and then it opens up to like all the tables that people set up and there's clipboards everywhere and they're like, hey, you want to join our group? You want to do this? And of course there's like someone selling, like trying to get you to sign up for credit cards. So there's always this like mind of like, oh, I don't want to do a survey. You think of someone with a clipboard and they have 5 gajillion questions that they want to ask you. That is not what I consider a survey. I'm writing a new book, and I recently sent out, like in our free Facebook group, I was like, hey, here's a Google form. It's 5 questions. If you could fill it out, that would be great. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to do it. That is what I'm talking about. Something that's simple. It's not overly complicated for you or your audience. And then keep asking. Keep asking. So, Tanya, if you're having trouble receiving feedback, maybe on social media, maybe you email your list, or maybe you create a form and you post it, or maybe you just do a quick poll in a Facebook group. It doesn't even have to be your Facebook group. There are some people that get a little snaky and like, you know, spammy in Facebook groups where they like to ask a question and then they like follow up with like, oh, this is your problem. Here, book a sales call. Don't be one of those people. I'm not talking to Tanya. I'm talking to everybody. Don't be those people. I've like cringe when I see those people in Facebook groups, but I think you just have to get comfortable hearing nothing. It's kind of like going live. Like whenever I first started going live, y'all, there was nobody here. There was nobody here. I was hanging out by myself and I had to get comfortable talking by myself. And I've got to the point where, you know, it doesn't even bother me, even if it is, because I know people will watch the replay. So if you send out a survey, I got no results on my first probably, I don't know if I want to say this out loud. My mom is probably the only one that filled out a lot of my surveys in the beginning. But I know as a good marketer, and I say surveys, not one, surveys, like probably 10. Probably my 10 first surveys I sent out were filled out by maybe like my mom and one other person. Maybe. Now, I sent one out the other day. I got 10 responses in less than 5 minutes. And it was because I just get comfortable in asking my audience what it is that they want, but you also have to package it in a way that's going to benefit them, not just you. Like, hey, I need your help. You don't want to be that friend, right? That's like, oh, you know, I'm calling you only because I need something. You want to position it as like, hey, I'm trying to deliver the best content for the podcast. I would love your feedback on this, or I would love to pick your brain on whether you want these 10 episodes coming up, which one you want the most, or which ones you want. You know, there's a whole different way that you can look at it, but those are just a few ideas, Tanya. But don't stop. Keep using social media. Use Instagram stories, use Facebook polls, create a survey. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. So happy that you're here, Nathan. This is so fun. Okay, so this is Monique's takeaway. I asked her, she said, it was a great episode today. And I said, okay, awesome. Tell me your takeaway. Takeaway encouraging me to take risk. I don't have to do everything the same, and even just trying different things out, it doesn't have to be a permanent change. Okay, I know exactly which piece that Monique is talking about, because even though we talked about taking creative risks on today's episode, I knew that there would be people that don't like to jump like off the deep end, like, oh, cool, I'm going to try something new. That's not me either. I like to baby step into taking a risk or doing something new. So what I will do is if I'm trying out a new format, for example, for the podcast, before I just said, oh, we're switching totally, like switching gears, you can actually go back to the beginning episodes of the Profit podcast where I transitioned, I pivoted from the Rookie Life to the Profit podcast. And you can see I did bonus episodes. Like I still had episodes of the Rookie Life, and I wasn't 100% comfortable like switching everything over. And so it gets a little messy in there. It does. If you go back, it's like episode 46, 48, like around there, you'll see where it gets messy. There's like an episode, then bonus episodes. And then it's like, okay, like what's that? It's because I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure out, what do I do with this content I already had recorded? Do I still air it? Do I make it a regular episode? So bonus episodes are a great way to test things out. I was talking to Eric. So shout out Eric. This is a different Eric. I mentioned one earlier, but Dr. Eric. I was talking to him last week. We were doing a coaching call. He's one of my students in Profit Podcasting, and he was asking about trying something new. He was like, I think I want to include a segment where people can like ask me questions and, be able to answer them, or maybe they can send in audio clips. Like, he was trying to brainstorm ways that he can make this new format work. And I said, you can just upload a bonus episode. Like, if you're not sure, because people will ask me, like, I don't want to commit. I feel like if I give this one an actual episode number and an episode like just like my other ones, but it's different, it feels like I'm committing. Like, we got some non-committal people in the audience, and I get it. Like, you don't want to fully commit to, let's say, publishing 2 episodes a week, right? Or publishing an extra episode a month. You're like, that just, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Release a bonus episode. And then just see what happens, right? And if you're like, that was awful, it was terrible, take it down. It's as simple as that. It really is. And I think, like I said earlier, creating the content is one of my superpowers, because I don't think I get too caught up in the, well, what if this happens? Or what if it goes this way? What if it goes south? Like, I'm constantly iterating and testing new ways to deliver the best content to my audience. And I think that once you frame it in your mind that way, it just gives you permission to take some bigger creative risks with your content. So I love hearing that. Thank you so much for your feedback, Monique. That's really helpful. Hi, Jacqueline. So happy that you're here. Okay, so Adriana says, if you're into health and already have a reality podcast, can you add health talks to it? I'm an optometry student and the host of For Realities with Addie Starr. Can I add eye care tips to my podcast? So this is a really good question. Honestly, with these 2 topics, I feel like they're very different. And because they're very different, like let me give you an example. If you are an author who had a kind of a behind the scenes podcast about your writing journey, but then you're like, you know what? I really love the mystery genre too. I'm going to like talk about my writing journey and then talk about my favorite mystery books. There's an overlap there. Your audience would be probably authors, readers, and writers, which is kind of, a hierarchy of, a certain subset of a population. But with reality podcast and optometry, it's kind of like squishing together E-News and the Discovery Channel. Like, it's a very different audience that doesn't really have a lot of overlap. Yeah, people that love reality TV, they do need eye care tips, but that wouldn't be the first thing that I would pop into my mind when I thought of your specific podcast. So, Adriana, I would definitely encourage you. I have a podcast episode. Hang on, let me look this up, because I have one that is not about exactly what, hang on. It's should I rebrand my podcast? It's like how to know if I should rebrand a podcast or start a new one. That's really what the basis of it is. And I'm going to look it up. Because it sounds like you need 2 separate podcasts. I don't think that there's enough overlap. I think that it would the whole message would get washed out. Is this a reality podcast? Is this optometry? Why is she all of a sudden why is she talking about optometry? Now, if that is what you do, right? You're an optometry student. You want to have an optometry practice one day. You could self-sponsor your own ads if you're talking about, hey, make sure you check out my optometry podcast coming soon. So stick with your reality podcast, stay on that track, stay on that topic. And then when you're ready, if you're going to launch a second podcast, then you could use this audience to say, hey, by the way, if you love this, I'm actually an optometry student and I'm working on this, and I'd love to give you some eye care tips. I was going to say some hair care tips. Those are very different things. I want to give you some eye care tips. Go check out my new podcast. So you can leverage the audience that you currently have. It's just going to look different than smushing the 2 topics together. So let me know if you have questions about that, Adriana. But I'm going to look up this episode number for you because I think it would be super, super helpful. Trying to get everything. Okay, so it's about rebranding. I know that one. Okay, so it's episode 78 of the Profit Podcast, and it's called How to Rebrand a Podcast After You Launch. So that can kind of help you. I know I talk about rebranding if that's really what you want to do, if you wanted to switch gears. But I feel like those two subjects are too far removed from each other to put them together for someone to say, I really want to go to this podcast for this one particular reason. So those are my thoughts. Let me know if you have any other questions. Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Thanks so much for the feedback. You're so, so welcome. Okay, so Arian says, what about a takeaway PDF lead magnet? So this is a really good way for you to grow your email list. If everybody's watching here, if you don't have an email list for your podcast, I highly encourage you get started. I have tons of YouTube videos, podcast episodes about growing growing an email list with a podcast. But that is what Ariane is talking about here. So lead magnet, that's what that is. It's a free resource that you use to grow your podcast. But I'm just going to warn you, trying to have like a takeaway for every episode is going to be exhausting for you. I mean, maybe if you only publish 1 or 2 episodes a month, it would be doable. But there was a period where I was only publishing once a week, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make a lead magnet for every single episode. And it was exhausting. I think my audience found it helpful. It was exhausting for me on the back end. But maybe if you have a specialty, like where you can, I'll just like, oh, that's no problem. I can, whip these things out and they're super easy for me to create. Then, maybe you could try it out. But I think, doing it for everyone, it's just a little overwhelming. Yeah. Okay. So she says a weekly episode. Okay. So if you're doing a weekly episode, I do think it would be a lot, but what you could do is if you know the next 4 episodes that are coming up, you could create one lead magnet that is like all those episodes have kind of the same topic. You could create like a very robust lead magnet that you can say, if you like this episode, make sure you go grab our lead magnet. Here it is. The next episode, make sure you go grab our lead magnet. Here it is. And, you could almost create like a little mini series that all tie back to this one particular lead magnet. I would much rather see you create one really awesome lead magnet than kind of a more mediocre lead magnet that's just like a 1-page takeaway that someone would download every week. Because I could tell you as a consumer, I wouldn't go grab a lead magnet every single week unless it was really amazing. And I think that you just have a better chance to really grow your email list if it's something that's a little bit meatier, a little bit more, I don't want to say over the top, but like a meatier lead magnet. So let me see. Oh, I did a bonus episode last week on domestic violence. My audience loved it. Okay, so this is great. So because Monique's been hanging out here with us, I know that her podcast is more geared towards relationships of like marriage and dating and all those. So domestic violence plays into that for sure, right? Like it plays into those relationships, and Monique, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe you're like, I don't know if we should talk about this. Is this too dark? Do we want to keep this like a lighter podcast? And so in testing that out, I think that's a great way. If you have a topic, you're like, I think I want to talk about this, but I'm not really sure. Release it as a bonus episode. And then if it totally flops, if it tanks, you can just delete it. You can just say, you know what? It didn't even happen. I'm just going to delete this and we're just going to go on about our day like it didn't even exist. I don't think you should do that on a regular basis, but okay. Yeah, this was her sentiments exactly, and because I know what Monique typically talks about, it all seems very positive and like, hey, this is how to nurture these relationships and make them better. So domestic violence could seem like whoa, like where did that come from? It came out of left field, but releasing it as a bonus episode is a great way. Now she knows my audience loved it. So she could explore different ways like, should I incorporate an expert to come on the show to talk about this? Or should we have resources that people could use for domestic violence survivors? Like there's so many different ways. And Monique, I'm just like, my brain's exploding on ideas that you could use. But this is what happens when you start thinking about creative ways to use your content. Just follow those breadcrumbs to success, right? If people loved it, you're getting awesome feedback, then turn around what I just did to you, Monique, turn around and say, what did you love about it? right? Maybe you had a really honest conversation, or maybe you talked about something that maybe other people in your genre of your podcast wouldn't normally talk about. Ask them, what did you love about it? I'm so happy that you loved it, but what was it? What particular piece of that episode just you really enjoyed? Yeah, I'd love to hear that that's what happened. Yo, 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 y'all, please go subscribe to Melanie's channel. If you weren't here last week, she joined me, very impromptu, and it was a lot of fun. And if you want to know more about live streaming, go check out all the things, because I like all the things, like this little thing over here. Oh, wait, Mel, I don't know that you were here earlier, but she knows I love my Taco Tuesday girl. Like, she showed me how to do all these things, and I do all this with, oh, is it on that side? StreamYard. So, yeah, I have like a little bit. I love how big this coffee mug is, but y'all look at this. I don't even want to spill it. There, you can't even see it. There's like a little bit of tea, and it's cold. And it's cold. I regret taking that sip. It was not hot at all. It was very cold. Sorry I got on your live later. Having a rescue farm is not easy. Oh my gosh, that's awesome, Jacqueline. What we have to know. You can't just leave it at a rescue farm. What kind of animals do you have on this farm? I need to know, because I think it's always so interesting what people do on rescue farms. That's awesome. I have a friend who, she's probably about 30 minutes north of where we live. She rescues donkeys, and it just makes my heart so happy. And she plays the ukulele. She's super creative. She does all these things, and she will post videos of her playing the ukulele to her baby donkeys. And it's the cutest thing ever. It's so cute. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I digress, but I love little baby donkeys listening to the ukulele. What program are you referring to? So I probably would have been talking about my program, Profit Podcasting. If you were I think you probably came in around the time I was talking about Eric. Eric is one of the students for Profit Podcasting. This is my course that I have that teaches all the things that we're talking about. It's right here. You can go to crystalprofit.com/course to check it out. But I think that's probably what we were referencing earlier is Eric had questions about, doing bonus content. We talk a little bit about that in Profit Podcasting, but it's really for beginners that are looking to get started. And speaking of that, I'm really excited to talk about an upcoming group coaching program that I'm going to be doing in January. So for those of you, and Kurt, he's another student that we've had in the past too, that, if you're starting your podcast, you've already got running, and you're like, now what? What's the next step? How do I monetize? How do I grow my show? How do I kind of pump up my marketing initiatives? How do I get all those things going? Well, that's what the program is going to be about in January. I'm kind of putting it all together right now, trying to settle on the name. It's going to be the Potty People. It's going to be like cat's out of the bag. It's going to be the Potty People, but it's going to be the Potty People something, not just the Potty People. It's going to be something at the end, and I can't decide on what that word is, and it's driving me crazy, to be really honest. But how should I don't know what this one is, Matthew. You got to give me a little bit more here. I don't know if that cut out, but you gotta let me know. Oh my gosh. Let me see. Kurt says, you guys here who haven't taken her course already, it walks you step by step from creation to launch and beyond, and it's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Kurt. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think it was was it this time last year that you went through the program? Has it been that long? I'm trying to remember how long ago it was, but yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Yes. Okay. This is awesome. We're all on the same page. Every day is Taco Tuesday in my house. Y'all should also go follow Melanie on Instagram. She always posts about these shrimp tacos, which now she's in Indiana. I don't know how cold it is there. It's cold here, meaning it's 70 degrees today in Houston. So anybody that's like in the Midwest or further north, you're like, are you kidding me? Like, that is not cold. I still have on shorts. I did have on a sweater before this, but y'all, okay, I haven't even shown this off today. I had to show off my shirt. Who's going to get it? Who's going to get it? Who's going to know what it is? All right. If you get this, I will send you a door hanger. I have those Buzzsprout door hangers still. Hang on. I'm going to grab one. Hang on. Okay. If you can guess what this is, look, it kind of matches my shirt. Oh my gosh, it is like the exact color. If you can tell me what this means, oh wait, hang on, I did it the wrong way. I will send you one of these. It says, "Quiet please, podcast in progress." Ooh, don't look at my cuticles. Ooh, that's awful. I need someone to put it in the comments. Okay? Because I think it's going to be hilarious. If you get it, you got to know what it is and you got to know what show it's referencing. Okay? If you get it, I'm going to give you a door hanger. Let me see. Let me see. What is going on in the comments? What is happening? Okay. Do you think your methods will also work in Belgium? Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that is going to be universally work across the board. I don't really know. I guess give me more of your question, because I think whenever you're translating, if you're asking about language, like this is a very good point for anybody that's listening, because it's like, here's language, and then here is universally accepted podcasting marketing practices. Because people will say, I don't speak English is my second language. I actually have a lot of students that have come to me recently that English is their second language. And they're like, should I podcast in English? Should I podcast in my native language? Should I podcast in my local language? Because there's some people that even have local dialects that they want to use for their podcast. And if that is your question, it is definitely something to consider. Are you trying to reach just people in your local area, or are you trying to reach a broader audience? Because it's going to be two separate answers. Okay, here. I wonder if it would work in Belgium because they speak another language there. Do you know which ones? No, I do not. And I don't know what is happening. Let's see. We're going to do some blocking here. Oh, you got a couple trolls. I sure do. And it's, it's, yeah, we're just, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of things that are happening in the comments, but okay. Yeah, there we go. Done. I'm like, hang on. Okay, they're gone. Yep. I don't know what Kurt is saying yep to. I don't know if this was to Melanie's Taco Tuesday comment earlier or because of saying about the podcast. I think it was about a year ago that you did the podcast. Y'all, oh my gosh. Yeah. What just happened? Who let the trolls in the house today? Okay, we needed to take them down. For anybody that's on Facebook, you're like, what? I don't see it. There was just a whole bunch of trolls. They're gone. They're gone now. They're gone. Okay, it was, yeah. Okay, so it was a year ago. So Kurt, tell me and tell everybody in the audience the name of your podcast, and let's just give you a quick shout out. Tell us what your podcast is about, because honestly, off the top of my head, I cannot remember for the life of me. I'm thinking it was personal development, motivation, but I cannot remember the name of your podcast. So I apologize. I do, but I want to give you a shout out, which is why I'm saying, hey, tell me the name of your podcast right now so we can tell everybody to go listen to it. Oh my gosh, y'all. This is so crazy. Let's not have any more trolls in here. So I want to say, Melanie's saying you got a couple trolls in here. To let y'all know, if you are using StreamYard, you can block them. Block them in the back end. There's a way for you to be able to just click a button and people are gone. Yeah, people are gone. And it's really nice, I gotta say, because if I were trying to manage, I don't actually have YouTube open right now. It's just I have StreamYard. I'm doing everything in StreamYard on the back end. And if that wasn't here, I don't even know how I'd manage it. Because I've had people say, we need to have moderators. We need to have someone in here. So, and I know Melanie does a live on Tuesdays as well. And she'll just she'll just say, and we need some moderators. We need some people to police these people. It's just getting a little crazy. Okay. Teresa, so happy that you're here. So Teresa, I don't know if you know this. Yesterday's YouTube video, I did all about your comment you made in our Facebook group. So go check that out. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, I did. It was all about your question about repurposing blog content to your podcast or vice versa, or how to use a blog kind of in conjunction with a podcast. So if you have not been able to go watch it, you got to go check it out, because I give you a little shout out. I'm like, thank you so much. That was such a good question. Okay. A moment of gravitas. We take a moment two time weekly to spread motivation and a positive vibe. Okay. So a moment of gravitas. Do you say the S or is it gravita? I feel like that's a fancy one that I'm like, ooh, am I saying it wrong? A moment of gravita, a moment of gravitas. Y'all go check it out. So Kurt, I am going to look this up. A moment of gravitas. Okay, this is, I always like doing this. So I think I misspelled it. Hang on. Bear with me here, ladies and gents. Because I wanted to pull up your artwork. Can't find your artwork. Y'all, let me just tell y'all too, don't look at all the images whenever they pop up, because sometimes you get some really weird pictures. That one wasn't like, I misspelled something, but yeah. Here we go. Finding gravitas. I can't find your artwork. I'm looking for your artwork. Oh, y'all, I'm having all kinds of issues on the back end. Like, it just defaulted to, okay. Please, everybody, go listen to Kurt's podcast, A Moment of Gravitas, because I cannot get, like, my search engine defaulted to Yahoo. What is actually happening? No, I do not use Yahoo. So yeah, this is my bad. My bad, Kurt. I was trying to give you a great shout out. Y'all go listen to his podcast. Oh, look at this. Love for Melanie. Y'all go watch her StreamYard videos because they work so well. I was just wondering about that. I would definitely go listen. Yeah. So go to YouTube. It's all about the video on repurposing content from a blog to a podcast. You're most welcome. You're the reason I'm using StreamYard. That's awesome. Elbow cough. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Would you advise people using makeup when they do their stream? Sure, if you feel comfortable. I've done streams without makeup. I've done YouTube videos without makeup. I've done lives without makeup. It totally depends on whatever you want to do. Yeah, share a link for us. We'd love to check it out. Yes. Always looking for personal development, personal motivation. And actually, if you listen to podcasts, which I'm assuming most everybody does, right? Y'all listen to podcasts, you're creating podcasts. I advise you to go check out Good Pods. Oh, this is not going to work well. It always messes up. Mel, I got to get better at doing this. But go check out Good Pods. Let me show y'all what it looks like on my phone. So here, this is what it is. It's this one right here. Go check out Good Pods. Go follow me on there because you can see all of the podcasts that I listen to. So I want y'all to go follow me on Good Pods. You can actually, it's kind of like following along on what I listen to on a regular basis. I was listening to some podcasts today that I found recently. I told y'all earlier at the very beginning of this stream about Ted Lasso. Well, if you watch Ted Lasso and you know who Roy Kent is, he is Brett Goldstein. He's an actor. He's a writer on the show. But he has a fantastic podcast that I had no idea about until I heard him on another podcast. And he started talking about it. It is so good. If you love movies and I love the back end things of movies. Like, I didn't realize Hannah Waddingham, she is on Ted Lasso. She's Rebecca. She's the shame nun on Game of Thrones. What? I didn't realize this till today. Y'all. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. I'm such a nerd when it comes to movies and understanding, understanding how things work behind the scenes. And so, yes, Roy Kent has a podcast. It's called Films to be Buried With. Here, this is what's so cool about this. It's so good. It's so stinking good. So y'all go follow me on Good Pods, and you can see, let me show you. I'm going to show you what his artwork looks like. It's going to be loud for a second. Hang on. Oh, there we go. This is what his artwork looks like. So, Films to be Buried With. It's so good. Yes, shame, mind blown. Teresa and I are like in our own little like nerdy conversation about Ted Lasso. But yes, so the Game of Thrones nun, who she's doing the whole shame bell, that is Rebecca from Ted Lasso. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I have done my due diligence of serving this community today with all of the information that you didn't even know you needed. But this all goes back to taking creative risks. Taking creative risk. Actually, Game of Thrones is the perfect example, because if you did not know this is why I'm such a movie buff and like just streaming shows and all those series. Game of Thrones followed George R.R. Martin, who's the initial author of the book Game of Thrones, which is like literally this big. It's so stinking big. He is the original author. He helped co-write most of the series up until it got to a certain season. And I read the original Game of Thrones book until I realized it is almost verbatim what happens in the show. Like the screenplay matches the book so stinking well. But what you notice, if you are a Game of Thrones fan, if you've seen everything, you've seen the whole series, you know that the last season is very, very different than everything else. It's because they had different writers. And I bring this up simply because if you take a creative risk, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. There are so many episodes of that last season of Game of Thrones that were just mind-blowing, incredible, so many cool effects, so many cool stories, but you can tell the cadence is different than all of the other seasons, and it's because they had different writers. So even if you're going to take a creative risk with your content, just know sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, but you got to try it, right? At the end of the day, trying something new shouldn't feel so scary. And I don't want you to feel like, oh, I can't, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I want you to take creative risks and not be afraid to put out those bonus episodes. Try a solo podcast if you never have. Try an interview if you never have. Make a shorter episode, make a longer episode. Like trying something new with your content. Maybe that's one of your goals for 2022. Right? I'm not going to force you into doing something like right now, today, tomorrow, but maybe that's one of your goals is to try a new format, a new type of content in the new year. But that's all I have for y'all today. This was so much fun. Yes, thank you for hanging out. This was great. Such a great stream, and I love being able to hang out with y'all every single week. So, I will be back next week. Y'all come back. Same time, same place, 10 a.m. Central, and I will see you there on my favorite day of the week. One more time, Taco Tuesday, and we'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.